I'm Teresa Campbell. Join me as we explore the lives of 4 individuals whose stories will inspire you to fearlessly face any obstacle standing in your way. Imagine being so insecure that you do everything within your power to cover it up. This is William's story.
Childhood was challenging. It was very challenging. I had an identity crisis at a young age. Realized that I didn't have my father's name. I had my godfather's name. And never seen him, just knew he was my godfather. And that's all I knew about him. And as I was going through school, I realized kindergarten, I got sent home with a note by Mrs. Sparks. And I knew then that something was wrong, because I was the type of child, I would do what I had to do, but I couldn't stand still. Went back and forth to the doctor, and somewhere between 5 and 8, they identified me as having ADHD. Faced with that alone, and then not being able to read very well, or even sound my syllables out correctly, was challenging.
William's inability to read caused him to build a wall of insecurity that would last for years.
Separating myself in class. I would, instead of going to the front, I would sit to the back. When it was time to read, I wouldn't put my hand up. It just caused me to withdraw. I use other things to cover it, but it really caused me to withdraw. And at a young age, I started judging myself based on what I knew versus what other people knew. How well they could read versus how I could read. And that took me into a whole different light in my life. I put on a smile. I was a natural leader, but inside, I was like a broken cat. Just got tossed in the water and didn't know how to swim. See, I had to become a man at a young age. I had to become my mother. It was just me and my mother. So not only having to deal with not being able to read or be competent in reading or be secure in reading, I had to be a young man. And that on top of feeling incompetent and not knowing where I was going to go if I couldn't read, or if I couldn't pass the test, or if I couldn't fill out an application correctly, it caused me not to, when I think about not having a father, and I wonder if I'd had a man in my life that could have possibly even read or even showed me how to read, maybe it would have been different.
After years of personal torment and doing everything to compensate for his emptiness, William decides to ask for help.
It must have been somewhere in my late 20s, maybe the mid 30s. I found myself asking God, to help me. I didn't have a father. I didn't have my biological father's name. And not having a father in my life, and happen to believe in a God that I couldn't physically see, I just said, I'm tired of living in fear. I learned, and God told me, He said, I'm an overcomer. And you're my son. And you're an overcomer too. He said, by my stripes, you were made whole. So I had to learn to trust in my spiritual father and my God, to overcome my fears and to grab the bulls by the horn and deal with the outcome. I trust in the God in heaven, the God in this atmosphere, the God that is present right now, versus what school said, versus what a teacher said, versus what a student thought about me. I don't have to have a physical father. I have a spiritual father, and I have a heavenly father. You know, I have a pastor that is a father figure that I look up to, that encouraged me to read one book at a time.
In an unexpected twist of fate, William would develop a passion for birds. They would give him the freedom that he desired so much.
I was introduced to birds somewhere between the ages of 7 and 9. And I was at a friend's house, and I seen these birds in the air, and they were very colorful, and it was intriguing, and it caught my eye. So I went around to the neighbor and got introduced to him, and he showed me the birds, and come to find out they were Birmingham rollers, these birds that are aerial acrobats. And the objective with the Birmingham roller was to encompass within about 16 inches, maybe 10 revolutions within 16 inches, to the point where it becomes an illusion. The bird actually turns back somersaults to the point where optimum is a bird with, it looks like a donut. You see a complete hole in the middle. So that intrigued me. So I ran home and told my mother about it and bugged her about it. And she was like, I don't want no birds, and I don't want no birds. And, I was persistent. And she ended up allowing me to have some birds. So I built my own cage. We took milk crates, cut them out, and I started raising birds. And what happened was that birds felt, actually filled a void in my life that helped me throughout life. At that age, I learned that even though someone wasn't around, somebody needed me. And the birds were someone that needed me, or something that needed me, and I had to tend to them. And in that, I learned, part of me, I'm a nurturer, and part of that comes from nurturing the birds. The birds gave me joy. You breed them and you get them together and you have competition, 20 birds, and the objective is to have all the birds roll at the same time. It's a feat that's hard to do. It may come once every 5 years. What they call it a full term, 20 birds, full term. But what it did do, it caused me to have to even face the challenging of reading, because if I want to take care of these things that I love so much, I had to learn how to become a doctor. I had to learn how to inject my birds. I had to learn how to measure medicine. I had to learn how to read and understand the symptoms. So even though I was struggling in reading, I was being prepared by having something that I love so much pulled out of me to face my fears if I wanted to have these birds. It's a hobby that I'm still doing, that I'm passionate about. I thank God for allowing me to see the birds, because the birds help me, because I don't know where I would have been if I didn't have the birds. I may not be here talking to you now. I may have been dead. I may have ended up in jail. The birds kept me rooted.
William has some encouraging words for those who are feeling incompetent.
I think one of the first things I would tell him is, or her, for me, you need something bigger in your life than yourself. And I would tell him what God did for me. That would be the first thing. I overcame my fears and my incompetence through trusting in God and relying on God, that He said He would never forsake me nor leave me alone. And then I would tell him, find some man or woman that's willing to pour into you and stay on their coattail until the wheels fall off and the transmission hit the ground. Let not mercy and truth forsake thee. Bind them about thy neck, Write them upon the table of thy heart. So shall thou find favor and good understanding in the sight of God and man. Trust in God with all thy heart. Lean not unto thy own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path. Be not wise in thy own eyes. Fear the Lord and depart from evil.
William currently serves as an elder at the Secret Place, where he leads the intercessory prayer team. After hearing William's story, what insecurity are you willing to tackle?